Today, we're exploring Genesis chapter 12, a pivotal moment in history where God initiates his grand plan of redemption for all humanity through one man, Abraham. Let's begin with verse 1. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew thee. Imagine this. God speaks to Abraham, a man living in Ur of the Chaldees, a prosperous but pagan city. The instruction is radical: leave everything you know, your country, your family, your security. God doesn't even show him a map. He simply says, to a land that I will show you. This is a call to absolute faith, to step out of the familiar and into the unknown, trusting solely in the voice of God. It's the beginning of a life lived by faith, not by sight. This wasn't just a physical move. It was a spiritual separation from a culture of idolatry to a life of exclusive devotion to the one true God. Abraham had to let go of the past to embrace the future God had for him. Now, look at the incredible promises in verses 2 and 3. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great. And thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee. And curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. This is the Abrahamic covenant, a sevenfold promise of divine blessing. First, I will make you a great nation. Abraham was 75 years old and childless. This promise seemed impossible, but with God, nothing is impossible. Second, I will bless you. This is a direct, personal blessing from the Almighty. Third, I will make your name great. And indeed, Abraham, later Abraham, is revered by billions across the globe. Fourth, you shall be a blessing. God blesses us not just for our own benefit, but so we can become conduits of his blessing to others. The fifth and sixth promises establish a principle of divine alliance. I will bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. Aligning with God's chosen man meant aligning with God's blessing. To oppose him was to invite God's judgment. This shows how significant Abraham was in God's plan. And finally, the seventh and most profound promise, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. This is the ultimate purpose. This promise points directly to the Messiah, Jesus Christ, who would come from Abram's lineage. Through Jesus, the blessing of salvation, righteousness, and the Holy Spirit would be made available to every person, from every nation. This wasn't just about a single family, it was about the redemption of the entire world. Verse 4 shows Abram's response. So Abram departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Abram obeyed. He didn't argue or hesitate. He simply did what God said. This is the essence of faith in action. The Bible doesn't record his feelings, his fears, or his doubts. It records his obedience. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all their possessions and embarked on this incredible journey of faith. Notice the detail. He was 75 years old. It's never too late to obey God and step into the destiny he has for you. Verse 5 tells us, And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. They arrived. Faith, when acted upon, brings you to the place of promise. They didn't just start the journey, they completed the first leg of it. They arrived in Canaan, the very land God had in mind for them. Now, in verses 6 and 7, we see God's next move. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram, and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. God appears to Abram again. The journey of faith is a continuous conversation with God. Here, God confirms the promise, making it more specific. To your seed I will give this land. He's standing in it. God's promises become more tangible as we walk in obedience. Abram's response. He builds an altar. An altar is a place of worship, of consecration, and of remembrance. By building it, Abraham was dedicating this new land to God and acknowledging that everything he had and everything he was promised came from him. It was an act of worship in a foreign and hostile land, a bold declaration of his allegiance to Jehovah. Verse 8 continues this theme, "And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord." Abram keeps moving, but his pattern remains the same. He pitches his tent, which represents his temporary stay on earth, but he builds an altar, which represents his permanent connection to God. He called upon the name of the Lord. This means he proclaimed God's name, he preached, he testified, he made the presence and character of the one true God known in that pagan land. He was a missionary, a carrier of God's presence wherever he went. But then, the journey takes a turn. Verse 10, "And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land." Here we see the first major test. A famine strikes the promised land. What do you do when the place of promise looks like a place of lack? Abram's response here is based on sight, not faith. He saw the famine and, without any record of him consulting God, he went down to Egypt. Egypt, in the Bible, often symbolizes the world system, a place of human provision but spiritual danger. He left the place of God's promise for a place of worldly solution. This decision leads to a series of compromises. Verses 11 to 13, "And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon, therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me. But they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee." Fear takes over. The man who boldly left his homeland now fears for his life. Instead of trusting God for protection, he devises a human scheme. He asks his wife to lie, to say she is his sister. This half-truth was intended to protect himself, but it put his wife in a vulnerable position and compromised his testimony. When we step out of God's will and operate in fear, we often resort to deception and put others at risk. The consequences unfold in verses 14 to 16. The Egyptians see Sarai's beauty, and she is taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake, Pharaoh treats Abram well. He receives sheep, oxen, donkeys, and servants. He got the material wealth he may have sought, but at what cost? He gained the world's goods but lost his wife, compromised his integrity, and endangered the promise of God, which was to come through his seed with Sarai. This shows that worldly prosperity gained through compromise is never worth the spiritual price. But God is faithful even when we are not. Verses 17 to 19, "And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram, and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way." God intervenes. He doesn't protect Abram's lie, he protects his covenant. He plagues Pharaoh to rescue Sarai. Notice who rebukes the man of God, a pagan king. Pharaoh exposes Abram's deception. It's a humbling moment. The man who was called to be a blessing had become a source of trouble because of his fear and lack of faith. God's grace is so powerful that he steps in to correct our mistakes and put us back on the right path. Finally, verse 20, "And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had." Abram is escorted out of Egypt. He leaves with all the possessions he acquired, but he leaves in disgrace. He returns to the land of promise, having learned a powerful lesson about the consequences of fear and the incredible faithfulness of God. Genesis 12 is a masterclass in the life of faith. It teaches us that God's call requires bold obedience. His promises are vast and world-changing. Our journey will have tests, and sometimes we will fail. But even in our failures, God's grace is sufficient to rescue, restore, and redirect us back to His perfect plan. Abraham's story is our story, a story of a faithful God leading an imperfect people to an incredible destiny. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this has been a blessing to you. If you were inspired, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more journeys through the Word, brought to you by Cyber Elias Academy. Until next time, walk in faith and be a blessing.